Today's true crime story looks at how a woman at the center of a love triangle with an NFL player and a millionaire decided that the best way to go was to turn to murder, and she would go on further to partake in the planning and execution of this murder. This murder would be directed towards the millionaire partner that she was with, because the relationship had gotten so messy and it seemed like that was the best way to go. This case has been solved years after it actually happened, and this lady and her partner, the other guy in the love triangle, were found guilty. But when you go through this case, you begin to understand why some people have become so skeptical of actually even going into relationships, not to even talk of taking relationships serious, because some of these cases just goes a long way to sort of demotivate people from actually being ready to commit. This is the true crime story of how millionaire Bill McLaughlin was actually murdered in his home, and his girlfriend or fiancée at the time being at the center of it, in the person of Nanette Johnson. If you are ready for this true crime story, please just buckle up and let's go. Bill McLaughlin attained his millions through the creation of medical devices for various medical institutions. He was on the roll, he was doing so well for himself, and he was cashing in from his creations, and as such, life was really good. But fast forward, on December 15th, 1994, Bill was found shot 6 times on his kitchen floor of his gated Newport Beach, California home by his son, who then alerted emergency dispatchers minutes after he found his father in that situation. And as is the norm, suspicion immediately fell on those closest to him as a victim. Now, it is unfortunate, but per how these things usually go in terms of investigations, the security agencies would primarily start looking at family members or anybody that happened to be at the scene as a suspect. And as such, his son was fitting the profile for these two scenarios. And as such, initially, they were considering the possibility of he being a potential suspect. His son was called Kevin. Now, Kevin told investigators what happened, and this is what he said. He indicated that he and his father had finished dinner together around 8:30 p.m. when he, Kevin, went upstairs to his bedroom. But minutes after that, he heard several loud noises, and he later determined them to be gunshots and went downstairs only to find his father dying at his feet. This is a very gruesome thing for a son to witness. Not to talk of a human being to witness another human being dying in that position, but I think it's even worse off when it's a son witnessing this happening to his parent. So, as detectives were processing the crime scene, Johnston rolled up in a convertible to the home, and this is how she supposedly found out about her boyfriend's death or killing. So Johnston was dating McLaughlin, and when this happened and police and detectives were at the crime scene trying to piece things together and get evidence from the crime scene, that was when she came in, Nanette Johnson. That was when she came into the house through the car that she was driving, and at the point of that investigation, she was trying to imply that that was the first time she sort of got to know her fiancé, Bill McLaughlin, had been shot and killed. Now, Nanette Johnson had met McLaughlin after placing an advertisement in the classified section of a newspaper explicitly looking for an older, wealthier man following his divorce from his first wife. She appeared emotionally upset. This is according to detectives. When Nanette arrived at the scene, she appeared emotionally upset, and she told detectives she was very happy with Bill. They were engaged and to be married very soon. Bill McLaughlin actually provided her with not only financial security, but the wherewithal to live a lifestyle that she really enjoyed. And this is what she was saying. So Bill was like an all-in-one package for her, and she loved him so much. But then, from experience, when crimes happen, people who try to explain a lot of things to the perfection such that they won't even be looked at with any form of suspicion usually turn up to be key suspects in the case afterwards. Because it happened in this case too. As soon as investigators really started looking into the crime, it became apparent that Johnston was at the center of a tangled triangle that involved herself, McLaughlin, and a former professional football player named Eric Naposki. In fact, just some few days after the murder of McLaughlin, police surveillance units saw Johnston suspiciously cozying up with Naposki at another of McLaughlin's homes on the beach, decorating a Christmas tree and generally seeming as if they were the picture of a domestic bliss. So you see how cold-hearted and calculative this is. The man you claim you love so much, who does everything for you, has been murdered just some few days ago, and you're already seen cozying up with another man in the home of that fiancé whom you say you loved and has been murdered. How insensitive can you be? But that is what was happening. Now, according to police, they began wondering, because if she is innocent, then it means that there's a killer on the loose who may be after her. And she didn't even draw the curtains. She knows that she was not in any danger, because when they looked at how she was posturing with Naposki, nothing depicted that this was a woman who appreciated the gravity of the situation, that my fiancé has been murdered and I could be a potential target, and I'm scared, and I'm actually taking steps to enhance my security. This seemed more like somebody who was just enjoying her life after she had had a bump in the road in the form of her fiancé being killed. So nothing showed that she was actually scared for her life. Now, investigators decided to shift their attention to her and Naposki, because her actions were suspicious. And by doing so, detectives found out that Johnston had initially lied to them about what she was doing on the night of the murder. She told them that she was with her ex-husband watching their kids' soccer game. But investigators found out that she was also there with Naposki. And this immediately raised red flags for the investigators, because Naposki kept popping up. He kept popping up. Later on, police pulled over Naposki when he was driving and arrested him on an outstanding traffic warrant. And during the search of his vehicle, police found a notebook that included a page with McLaughlin's license plate number scribbled on it. Now, this was key evidence, and obviously everybody in the security department's eyes started turning toward Eric Naposki as being more and more important as a potential suspect in the murder of Bill McLaughlin, because you are actually having a side relationship with his fiancée, and he ends up dead, and we find a notebook in your car with his number plate scribbled on, and hey, you are not his mechanic. Yeah. So Naposki then told investigators that he didn't own any guns, and that He relented and admitted later on that he owned a 9mm handgun. So you could see the contradictions in his story. And this 9mm handgun coincidentally was the same type of gun that police believed was used to kill Bill McLaughlin. And when police asked Naposki where the gun was, Naposki claimed that he lent it to a friend and that the gun got stolen. So you see again, trying to roadblock the police investigation. But later it was discovered that not only were Johnston and Naposki in a relationship while Johnston was also supposedly with McLaughlin, but Johnston had been embezzling McLaughlin's money after he was killed. So you begin to see different motives playing out between Naposki and Johnston. Now, 2 months after the murder of Bill McLaughlin, McLaughlin's daughters discovered a check from December 14th, 1994. That was a day before the murder of their father. And this check was valued at $200,000 and it was made out to Johnston. That was eventually determined that the check was forged. It didn't end there. Other huge checks were also found, as well as a $1 million life insurance policy that McLaughlin made Johnston a beneficiary of. So you can see that this is a man who genuinely had the interest of his fiancée at heart. He was trying to make her comfortable. He was trying to bring her in so that he can share the fruits of his labor with her. But little did he know that she was actually betraying him and she was being a snake to him. Now, in 1995, Johnston was charged with grand theft for allegedly stealing about $500,000 from McLaughlin before and after his murder. She was sentenced to 1 year in jail for the crime, but it would be years before she and Naposki would eventually face the repercussions for Bill McLaughlin's killing. Now, further checks indicated that Johnston was married and had another kid within 8 years of McLaughlin's murder. 7 years after that marriage, Johnston got married again and had yet another child. Essentially, she tried reinventing herself as a doting wife and a soccer mom. So she was hopping from one marriage to the other, not to judge her. There could be very genuine reasons for that. But she was trying to also rebrand herself in the process and move on with her life, which she has a right to. But not when you are actually guilty of a murder you are trying to run away from. Now, on the flip side, Naposki had also gotten married and had children, essentially starting over on the East Coast in the years after the crime. So, this begs a lot of questions. Imagine you are married now watching this video. Ask yourself, what is my spouse hiding from me? Yeah, because later on, after the whole investigation was concluded years after, and Nanette and Naposki were found guilty, Nanette's husband at the time would actually come out to indicate that she lied to him about her past and he didn't even know that she was involved in any murder investigation. So the question is, how well do you even know your partner? What are they hiding from you? You better pray you are not married to someone like Nanette. Now, it wasn't until 2009 that McLaughlin's cold case file was combed over again by the Orange County DA's office. So this was about 15 years after the original murder occurred. So justice delayed is not justice that is inevitable. Justice delayed, they say, is justice denied, but it doesn't mean that you get away with the crime. Now, the silver bullet in this case came in the form of an obscure tip that retired investigator Larry Montgomery discovered while listening to interviews from the case. It was from one of Naposki's former neighbors called Suzanne Koga. Now, I quote, this is what Suzanne Koga said. I received a call from the OCDA and I immediately said, "What took you so long?" Now, after this, Koga proceeded to tell them about a chance encounter with Naposki at her apartment in 1994, where the football player apparently spelled out his intentions to murder Bill McLaughlin. According to Koga, Naposki thought his girlfriend, Johnston, was being sexually harassed and assaulted by McLaughlin, who Johnston had characterized as her business associate rather than her lover. Now, if this was true, it gives a sense that Nanette was playing Naposki against Bill McLaughlin, trying to incite him, which she knows he will be incited because of the love he also has for her, or whatever feeling he had for her. And as a man, she knew, or she most likely knew, that if she made him think that Bill was not treating her well, it will incite Naposki against Bill, and she can leverage on that to get him to eliminate Bill without her getting her hands dirty. So Naposki had become more like Nanette's puppet towards the commission of murder. That is how conniving that this woman was, if this witness statement is a fact to go with. Now, both Johnson and Naposki were eventually arrested for the murder, with each person's defense attempting to pin the crime on the other. And that is how it goes. No honor among thieves. Once the crime is exposed and justice is being sought, they turn on each other. Johnson's counsel said Naposki acted alone out of jealousy, while Naposki's lawyers said Johnson was the mastermind of the entire plot. What prosecutors determined, however, was that Johnston and Naposki plotted to kill McLaughlin so that he wouldn't find out about her cheating on him and embezzling his money, and so that they would both reap the windfall of the life insurance policy. Now, on July 13, 2011, Naposki was found guilty of the murder of Bill McLaughlin. Almost a year later, on Friday, the 18th of May, 2012, Nanette Johnston was also sentenced to life in prison without parole for the same crime. No one, I quote, this is coming from McLaughlin's daughter, and she indicated that no one should be interrupted while having dinner in the safety of their own home by a person pointing a gun at him. She said this because she was referencing the manner in which her dad was killed. And I can relate with what she's saying, because if you know families that have gone through things like this, or that have lost a loved one through a gruesome way, it's a scar on them. It's something that does not go away, and I don't think that anybody deserves to be put in that situation. More so, to have someone that their loved one trusted and opened up to and give the best of him or herself to. I think that this was a stab in the back, not only to Bill McLaughlin, but also to his entire family, including his kids. And I'm glad that justice got served. Our heart goes out to the families of Bill McLaughlin, and we pray that they have the strength to move on from this. Kindly subscribe to the channel if you already haven't done so. Turn on post notifications so that you know when we put out our new content. Share. I believe that in as much as these are true crime stories, they are also learning curves for us to learn certain things from as we go through life. You know, experience is the best teacher, but sometimes you don't have to wait to make the same mistakes others have already made. You could just learn from their mistakes and avoid them altogether. We are here for you. And as I always say, stay safe out there and keep an eye out. We'll catch you next time.